Am I getting like a countdown?
That's what the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 was.
Oh, we're live.
Sorry. There he is.
Welcome
Back
to
to plus
Pardon the
one.
Disruption. Yes, I promise the rest of the show is going to be better than my start there. I'm the guest host, RJ Bates III, filling in for Potter, our boys out there learning how to be a realtor at the Real Conference. Good luck, Potter. Looking forward to today's episode, especially considering the fact that after 3 victories in a row, they pushed me to be the host and I can no longer compete. So, if you don't know how the show works, we're going to have 6 questions, 5 of which are pre-selected, 1 of which is directly from you guys, the audience. The guys will have 45 seconds, roughly, to answer, and then after that, they'll have a couple minutes to debate, and then I will choose whoever answered the best. If I can't decide, which I rarely struggle with this, I'll take it to the chat, and whoever wins the chat vote will get the point. Let's start off today by introductions. EB, Eric, how you doing today, man?
Great low energy kickoff to the call today, RJ. I'm already half asleep.
Thanks, Jimmy. You can shut up. We're introducing Eric Brewer now. Eric, you're muted, bro.
That's a great start to the show.
Just tell, we got to get this out of the gate. Let's tell Jimmy his name for the rest of the show is going to be Robert Sorry, much like Robert Horry, who played for the Spurs. But since he has a little cold sore on his lip for the remainder of the show, we're just going to focus on that. The best is he's like, yeah, it was a jiu-jitsu accident. Like, come on, man. Anyway.
What, am I supposed to come on a podcast and say it's the herp? Like,
yes, we lead with vulnerability and transparency here, right? So anyway, happy to be here. Good to see RJ. Shout out to Potter learning to be a real estate agent. I hope he's having some success.
There you go. Mr. Trang, how you doing today?
Steve Trang, Real Estate Disruptors. We help you solve sales problems. Great start to the show. I watched Mr. Beast's video this morning talking about how important the first 5 seconds is, like the most critical thing in any YouTube video. So we had 10 subscribers when we 10 people watching live when we started, and right after RJ's intro went down to 4. So it's gonna be a great show. I'm looking forward to this.
Awesome. You're probably not going to win today. CJ, the reason why we all started 12 minutes late. How you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, man. I'm feeling rested, patient, feeling timely. So it's good to be here. Good to see everybody. Jimmy, I hope you're doing well. Let's get to it. Yeah.
Yeah, and up next we have PTD's version of John Fetterman. How you doing, Jimmy?
hey there, Robert Sorry here. I've also my latest affiliate agreement has been with Valtrex. So jimmyvreeland.com/Valtrex if you have any sores you need to take care of.
Oh, man. All right, let's get into it. Question number 1. Lately, many music fans have been criticizing the unsudden and unreasonable increase in concert ticket prices in the past year. For real estate investors, what's a reasonable price for attending a live event / mastermind to improve their business? Eric.
I think there is no maximum price. At the end of the day, if we're talking about a real estate mastermind, a real estate meetup, a mentor, whatever it may be, if you're getting value out of it, I wouldn't put any cap on it. If I can go there and spend $100,000 to be surrounded by people for 3 days that I get $200,000 worth of value out of, as an investor, anything that I can see an ROI on is a wise investment regardless of the price. So I don't think there's a cap you can put on it. It's all about what you get out of it.
All right. Interesting. Steve, what about you?
Well, unfortunately, I see a lot of similarities between my answer and Eric's. It really comes down to what you believe you're going to get out of it, right? If you go into a mastermind thinking it's going to help you add this much top line and eventually bottom line to your business, then a fraction of that should be what you'd be willing to invest. I'll give you an example here. A long time ago, when I was trying to get Pace Morby to sell me his deals, he was telling me he was going to the Sandler office, right, where all the home investors guys are hanging out every Friday. for me personally, I was willing to spend $20,000 to be in that room because I know there's no way I'm not going to do at least one $20K deal in that room in the next 12 months. So I think it just ultimately comes down to what you think you'll get out of that mastermind.
So we just found out that Steve's one deal he does a year is $20,000.
Yes.
That's what we found out. Got it.
Vulnerability, and authenticity.
CJ, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're paying for experience, right? If you're going to a mastermind or a meetup, you're paying for the experience gained from that, just like going to a big time concert. So, I think you pay whatever you need to pay that you can afford to get in the room and then actually have money left over to take action on the information that's given. I think you got to make sure that you're able to lead with value when you go to these types of things, but I don't think there's a price on it. Whatever that experience is worth to you, I think you spend the money and make sure you get yourself in the room and you take full advantage of making sure you live that experience.
All right, Jimmy, the floor is wide open for you to actually answer the question here.
I would like to see a clear pathway to double my money. So if it's 25, can I do 2 or 3 deals, make my money back pretty quick? Especially when you're starting out and maybe cash might be tight. I'd say you want to see a clear pathway to double your money.
I'll say this. So Chris Jefferson over here invited me to go hang out with him at ClickFunnels in Orlando, Florida. And then he stood me up, right? But it was $1,000, right, to go to ClickFunnels. And there was one thing I took away there that I already know is going to make me an extra 6 figures, right, in the next year. So, what is a worthwhile investment? For me, $1,000 was a steal to take away that one thing I learned, right? So I think when people go in there, like, oh, it costs too much. If your attitude or if your focus is on cost, I have one thing, and this is not going to be a popular thing, but you're just going to stay broke. If you're focused strictly on cost, you're not focused on value, you have unconsciously put a limit on how much money you can make.
So I have, on a side note, I'd like to maybe make a suggestion about how we could earn extra points, and it's to come up with a funny nickname for Jimmy in alignment with his current lip situation. So I have one here in the vein of real estate. I would say that he does self-storage. Self-storage. I have other ones, but that's my one for round one. I think I should get some consideration for bonus points.
Well, I actually had an intelligent thought while Eric was going on, but for Mastermind in particular, the way you get your ROI is you get out of that room and you actually implement whatever one thing you learned, like Steve, whatever you learned at ClickFunnels, great that you had this epiphany, but would you agree it's on you to implement and make sure you get that return?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I took that concept and I implemented it right away.
Because there are mastermind junkies that I think they love being infotained and they never really execute and whatever their one thing is. So
if you're spending money to go somewhere like an event, meetup, mastermind, whatever, you should have a game plan, right? You should be going to that event or mastermind with some sort of game plan on what you're looking to extract from it, and a plan on how you plan to do that. You should be looking at who the speakers are. You should be looking at who's holding the mastermind. You should be vetting that person out, seeing do they have the information that you need? Is it going to be available at this particular event? And then you go in a targeted way and you extract it.
Yeah, I think intent is absolutely key.
Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, I was saying intent is absolutely key. And to Chris's credit, even though he stood me up completely for a Drake concert.
You left early.
He stood me up for a Drake concert. What he did do was he did send me a really well thought out. I was like, hey, if I were you, here's how I would attack this event. So to his credit, he did do that. And
then most importantly, after hours, you want to keep it clean because you don't want to end up in any type of situation where you have lip sores.
Good point. Good point.
All right. So what I'm going to say after this is first and foremost, I want to know why I wasn't invited to any of this stuff that CJ invited Steve to. Okay, so there's definitely no way CJ's getting the point.
You were doing YouTube lives cold calling.
Oh, there you go. I would say all of y'all's answers were pretty similar. What I enjoyed the most about Jimmy's is he gave specific, hey, I want to understand how I'm going to get my money back and how I'm going to double it. And then I also really appreciate the part about, hey, you need to implement. So point to Jimmy on this one.
What about keeping it clean?
Yeah, there you go. Question number 2. What's your favorite type of property to purchase, Jimmy?
Beautiful Midwestern, 1,200 square feet, 3-bedroom, 2 baths, just beautiful, hiding in plain sight wealth producers. I love them. They rent out for like $1,200. The rent goes up like $70 a year. It's glorious. It's the greatest wealth producer hiding in plain sight.
There you go. Better known to the rest of the world as shit boxes, but okay. We appreciate that, Jimmy. Eric, what about you?
You'll notice in any market fluctuation, no one in St. Louis is pissing and moaning because it just continues to pump. It doesn't go up. It doesn't go down. It's beautiful.
Just continues to pump. Eric, what about you?
What Jimmy didn't mention about the $1,200 a month rent is that's a 6-unit in St. Louis. Total rents are $1,200, and each of them are 3 bedrooms. I would say for me, I'm in the Northeast. When I get a phone call about a 3-bed, 2-bath brick rancher on a third of an acre where we are, there's literally a buyer, a tenant, cash, conventional. I can do anything with that house. So in my particular market, a rancher is super high in demand. We always say that it's a great first or last house, right? Where someone's buying their first house, they need something affordable. Ranchers generally around here are about 1,100 square feet. And then when you're downsizing and maybe you're getting elderly and probably have cash, which we like, right? It's a good last house because they don't want to deal with steps. So for me, it's a small, less than 1,600 square foot brick rancher.
All right, Steve, pretend like you bought properties before. Which one's your favorite to purchase?
I will readily admit I'm not going to win this one because I don't have an avatar for a house. I really only have a few simple criteria. I'm looking for a 3-2 at median and below and not too far away from the middle of the city, right? Because for me, all I'm looking at is this something that will move no matter what's going on in the market, right? Market's going up, market's going down. I'm always going to be safe at median below because people always need to buy and sell. The thing that's always scared me is if it's up well above median or it needs a significant amount of work. I don't want to buy those properties. I don't want to deal with major rehabs. I don't want to deal with what we're dealing with right now when interest rate spikes. It's harder to move when it's above median. So for me, I'm not as crystal clear as these 2 gentlemen. I'm looking at 3-2, median price and below, and not too far from the middle of the city.
All right. What about you, CJ?
When I hear this question, the first thought I had was, more long-term stuff. For me, man, anything under $100,000 across the country that's in more densely populated areas where you would call or consider, it has population growth trajectory. There's a lot of activity happening in these areas. I'm looking for houses under $100,000, right? Emerging market, population growth is on the uptick. And it lets me know that regardless of what part of the cycle I get in on, there's going to be some appreciation down the road that I'll be able to take advantage of. And those are definitely my favorite type of houses to pick up.
I just wanted to go on the record that Chris Jefferson is the cause of lack of affordability in housing. He is going out there buying 100K houses so poor people or less wealthy people can buy houses. I just want to put that out there and just let it marinate.
CJ, can I get clarification on your answer? Are you saying the value is below 100,000 or the purchase price?
No. Purchase price.
Right.
Yeah. Purchase price is under $100,000. Yield on those is better than you're going to get anywhere else. I think that's kind of what Jimmy's saying, right, about St. Louis and what he's doing out there. I mean, by far, they're the best type of properties to pick up, in my opinion.
So we need to crucify people like CJ. Is the lesson I'm taking from this.
Well, see,
I don't know, CJ. I like my market, but some days I get a little envious. I want to go play in the big leagues like RJ. Like Dallas seems like really awesome and hard, and only the best can survive there.
It's really awesome until you pay property taxes.
It's only like 5 or 10% of the property value.
Yeah, that's it. Any other
do I have
on
a chance
this?
to volunteer round 2? Funny name for Jimmy because I've been keeping a list. And shout out Chris Jefferson. He'll know who this person is. I don't know that anybody else here is as connected that me and CJ are, but I'm going to go round two. My name for Jimmy is Puzzle Simmons, a historic hip hop legend, one of the innovators of rap as we know it, a true entrepreneur. I think he deserves a place in round two. I'm going Puzzle Simmons for round two.
Yeah, a serial sexual harassing producer. Perfect. That's what we're gonna go with for Jimmy on this one.
Did Russell get canceled?
Supposedly.
I like that guy. That's a shame he got canceled.
So
accusations are pretty strong.
All right, let's move on from Puzzle Simmons. I think we've heard enough of that.
So Eric, are you like brainstorming notes for each round? I see you doing a lot of writing right now.
Yes.
I wish Eric would put half as much effort in his answers as he is the nicknames he's coming up with. Jimmy,
we all serve a purpose here, RJ. We'll tell you what yours is next Thursday.
I'm going to go with, on this one, I'm going to go with how specific he was with his buying criteria. I'm going to give Jimmy the point again. I like CJ's answer, but it was just too vague. I mean, it's just, hey, under 100,000 in a growing city. So I'm going to go with Jimmy on this one. Question number 3. When looking for deals and sellers, what are your criteria for qualifying and disqualifying a deal? Jimmy.
Own a house, can make a decision, and willing to sell the house in the next 90 days. I'm sorry, I wish I had a better answer, but I kind of stole that directly from Brewer. Like, we go on, we've adopted the Brewer method of going on every appointment possible.
Riveting answer, as always, Jimmy. I
yeah,
don't know how you
we're all out of specifics. He blew out all his specific ACL on question 2.
Look, there's been a discussion. Like, do you disqualify any appointments? And if it hits those 3 criteria, we go.
This could actually be a lengthy conversation. I think the least amount of qualifying you do for sellers, the better. The more qualifying you do for a deal, the better. And there's a little bit of both of these in the question, right? It actually says deals and sellers. I think too many people overqualify sellers. They think they have to be motivated. Well, what's your definition of motivation? Everybody has a different reason why they might be willing to sell a house at a discount. Everybody says, like even Jimmy, we got to stop with the 90 days unless you're only planning to do business for the next 90 days. You should be out meeting people that might be thinking about selling 4 months to 40 months from now and starting to establish a relationship that puts you top of mind. So when they are ready, you're the person that they're more likely to contact. When it comes to the deal, now we got to get much more specific, much like what Steve talked about. Chris and Jimmy, actually everybody but me on the last question, is how specific we get when we want to get a deal. Too often people try and throw things against the wall and hope that it sticks. They get locked up in a bad deal because they didn't qualify it enough. And it should be bed, baths, location, condition, size of renovation, and exit price, right? Like for us, we're staying at or below median price right now. So less qualifying sellers, more qualifying deals.
Like that answer. Steve, what about you?
I'm really looking at for sellers just motivation and a little bit of equity, right? If they have to sell. If they have to sell, there's somewhere they need to be. I think so many people that are trying to wholesale or buy these houses, like, oh, they want to sell. That's great. The reality is 90+% of the population will never sell their houses to someone like us, right? So for us, we're looking for someone that has to sell. They've got motivation. There's a life event. A life event has occurred where they need money now. That's all we're looking for. There's all these other qualifications I see these other people talking about. I think if you're overqualifying, people lie to you on the phone. People will just straight lie to you on the phone. If you believe everything they tell you, you will overqualify the prospect. I just need to know that you have to sell or there's someone where you need to be.
All right. What about you, CJ?
Yeah, I mean, look, on deals, we're looking for people that have a sense of motivation. They have a timeline that they're looking to sell that fits within, generally speaking, 30, 60, or 90 days. We've been doing this long enough to know that any lead's a deal if you know how to make it a deal. And so for us, we're just looking at what our buy buckets are, whether it's innovation, whether it's a seller finance wrap that we're looking to do, a fix and flip or rental property, whatever bucket that we're trying to fit it in, or that it shows us that it fits in, rather. We're going to go qualified to fit in that particular bucket. But that starts with, is there a motivation to actually sell the property and accept an offer and a discounted offer at that, right? And is there a timeline that they're actually looking to move forward in the transaction? And for us, we try to identify people that are looking to sell within 30, 60, 90 days.
Well, and I guess that's it. I mean,
no discussion whatsoever.
No, Eric,
well, Jimmy's wrong. Jimmy's
Eric,
wrong, but I can't tell you
a-
exactly why he's wrong.
So when you say qualifying, like everybody has that ideal, beautiful 3-2. Like, let's say somebody calls, they're motivated, and they have a 1-1. Is it my mindset is if we can get it low enough, we'll find a way to sell it. Like, is that? Or would you
difficult part with the difficult part with a 1-1 is what is low enough. There's probably very little to no comps. Generally when you stay at or around the median price, there's more buyers, there's more comps. It's easier to predict. And this is where we get tough into, like, whether you're talking about wholesale or not. Like, a lot of wholesalers are going to say, lock it up, shop it. And as long as you're clear about due diligence, like if you take 2 weeks and try and sell it and there's no buyers, no big deal. But I think when we're very loose about the language of what is cheap enough for a 1-1, Jimmy, if you're keeping it, that's up to you. You're like, hey, maybe I can get $80 a night rent in St. Louis on this 1-bedroom, 1-bath. And, that works out to be a couple $100 a month. But I think the more loose we become with the style of property we buy, the more difficult it is to responsibly disposition it. And that's how we end up getting stuck or backing out of a deal at the final hour.
Like, how far will you guys come off that ideal 3-2 below 1,600?
Oh, very. It becomes more difficult to establish an exit price as you move away from the median or comps because you're making an educated get. Like, what's the difference between a 2-bed and a 1-bed? Is it half since it's got half the number of bedrooms? I don't know. There's generally not comps for 1-bedroom, 1-bath, at least not where I'm from. They don't have 1-bed, 1-bath, like newer construction condos or something like that. It just gets really hard to project what ARV or an exit price would be.
Yeah, but I think that comes down to exit strategy, right? Like if I'm looking to do a seller finance wrap and it's a free and clear, I don't have any PG on it, and it's a 1-1, and I feel like I can wrap it to somebody, create some margin, upfront down payment, I can create some cash flow as well. Like, I'm going to take that deal and I'm going to run it, right? But my point is ultimately, and I think we're all saying the same thing, is you have to have some sort of buy box, like a pre-designated buy box. When I run into investors out here that are newer into the business, they have no concept of what they're actually looking for. They have actually really no clue at all. They just want to do a deal. So they're at every RIA meeting. They're commenting their email on every single Facebook post where somebody says they've got a deal. They have no targeted effort on what they're looking for. So I think the true point really is to make sure you have some sort of actual buy box that fits your business, that you can actually put it in your buy buckets and make money from.
So we didn't talk about interest rates or cash flow. Interesting.
God, Steve, you just keep it going from last week, huh?
Steve, tell him, it depends what my net is.
Yeah,
It's the only thing that matters.
Watch it, Eric. Watch it now. I'm about to give you the point. So keep your mouth
Hold on.
shut, okay?
Hold on. For this round, I would say for Jimmy, we're going to go football since we just kicked off football this week. And I'm going to go with a previous Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback by the name of Bubby Blister. His actual name was Bubby Brister. But for today, we're going Jimmy Vreeland. Bubby Blister probably played against the St. Louis Cardinals. No wonder they left, right? Like when you got 6 units that rent for $1,200, what athlete that finally made some money wants to live in a 6-unit for $200 a piece? That's crazy.
All right.
So Bubby Blister for round 3.
He had a few good years with the Steelers, right?
Little sidearm.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bubby Blister.
Yeah.
Shout out
All right,
Blister.
wrangle it in, boys. Okay.
Sorry.
Let's get back to the show here. CJ, I really liked your answer there about the wrap, and I was leaning towards you, but then you went down this path of, hey, like everyone's got to get their buy box and everything, and I felt like you went too specific down this path. I mean, what about the wholesalers out there? I mean, we're talking about disqualifying sellers and deals. There's always a buyer for a 2-1 or even the 1-1. I like Eric's answer. I'm going to give him the point there. Moving on to Steve, do we need to do our ad here?
Yeah, guys. So if you guys are ever running PPC ads, you know what headache and nightmare it is to keep up with the latest changes, the latest algorithm adjustments. So I used to run my own PPC campaigns, and then I found Bateman Collective. I was relieved to find a PPC partner who actually understands the real estate industry, are true experts in PPC, makes PPC work. Do what I did. Get a free consultation with Bateman Collective. Go to batemancollective.com/PTD.
So I love it. One of my editors took one of my answers from last week's PTD, and they actually saved my part where I said my answer is sponsored by Bateman Collective. It's hilarious. Let's go, Eric. Question number 4. If we have to create a national association of wholesalers, who would you want to lead the association?
This is so I don't have a name. By all means, if someone matches my description, I'd love to have it volunteered. But here's what I have down as notes that would be important to me. Someone that is able to lead. A lot of times I see in like local real estate agencies and things of that sort, where it's just the most senior person that happened to, put their name in the hat and they end up with the position, but they don't know how to lead. And what do I mean by leader? So I want someone that has experience in our field. They bring a proven track record. They have credibility in this particular business of wholesaling, right? I don't think it should be borrowed from standard real estate. It shouldn't be someone that's a lender. It should be someone that has experience in this. And then I think the final 2 things that we would look for if we ever end up is like advocating for the profession. You look at like the board of realtors, like they probably spend more money on lobbyists than any other nature of profession to protect that industry. I would want someone that is an advocate for our profession. And then like we talked about last week with Flip with Dick, right? We would want to have someone that brings unity to the community. Every single person here generally is involved in some type of education, and we might have a product to sell. And we all get together every week and have a good time, and we support each other for the most part. And I would want someone that would bring the community together and eliminate a lot of the BS that takes place where people talk down about others in an effort to prop themselves up. That's what I would be looking for as a leader of this industry.
Well, I think that's the first time anyone's taken 3 minutes to not give an answer. We appreciate that, Eric. Steve, hopefully you can tell us who you want to lead this new association of wholesalers.
So when I was thinking about this, the first person I was kind of thinking was RJ Bates. But then I was thinking this guy he has very, very few tangible social skills and emotional EQ, right? So then I was thinking probably Chris Jefferson, because Chris, he's worn all the different hats. I think he even owned a brokerage for a bit, right? But he's really anti-realtor, and I think he can't play well in the sandbox, right? And I think there's room for realtors and wholesalers. So I think looking at it, Jerry Norton's been talking about this for some time. He's passionate, and he's done both sides. He's done the wholesaling, and he's done the realtor thing. He's done the owning a brokerage thing. I think he sees value in all the different areas. I think he can play well. I don't think he's, constantly blasting other industries for no reason whatsoever. So I think probably Jerry Norton, he's been an advocate for wholesaling for quite some time. That's probably who I would suggest.
That was an interesting strategy. You could have just said Jerry Norton, but instead you looked right at the judge, said his name, and then said he would suck. No. Interesting strategy.
Well, I thought you first. You were my first thought.
I appreciate that. CJ, what about you?
Look, this thing has been attempted a couple of times. I think Jerry's been working on this for a little while. I think he's gotten a quarter of a mile with the efforts, right? The fact of the matter is at this point, trying to get an entire industry of, they call us the industry misfits, right? I think it would be incredibly difficult. I think it'd be a tall task. I think it would take somebody with some, connectivity, some leadership. My first thought, I think, is Leon G. Barnes. All right, shout out to Leon. The reason I'm going to say Leon is this guy's always in a suit for whatever reason, right? He's going to need, he's going to need one of those, right, to go up to Capitol Hill and try to lobby to get something done. He's always very friendly. People like that sometimes make me a little bit nervous, right? Sometimes I'm like, why is this guy always friendly, right? Why is he always being nice? I think that's something that's really important for the job. So I'm gonna give it to Leon G. Barnes. I think I'd hand him the baton and say, hey, go deal with this shit down in Capitol Hill, see what you can get done.
CJ, you might have been absent the week that Leon expressed to all of us that he loves studying serial killers. That's why he's always so friendly. Okay, he's luring you in.
No, it all makes sense now. It all makes sense.
He is incredibly well informed all the time.
Yes. Mr. Fetterman, what about you?
That's my answer. As soon as Fetterman's done with his time in the Senate, I would love to be in an organization where he leads, because I'm with CJ. If they got a National Association of Wholesalers, it's a bunch of cowboys. It's a bunch of misfits. It would be like herding cats, and he would be great at it. And then I think he'd also be open to bribery. So I think those with some cash could also hook ourselves up. So Fetterman's my answer.
I love y'all's debates. As soon as
Would now be an appropriate time for me to offer up my next.
Don't you? So if we start this federation, or what's it called?
Association.
Association.
It's not a new term, Jimmy.
Do you think it's going to kill opportunity for the newbies? Because it's going to increase the barrier to entry.
Have you noticed? Have you ever thought, man, the National Association of Realtors have made it really hard to become a realtor?
No, not at all.
Exactly. But it has created a barrier. It has created a barrier to entry.
Yeah,
well, that's fine.
That barrier to entry is waking up.
I mean, what I love about wholesaling is that anybody, anywhere, anytime can just get after it. And so I love that about wholesaling. And so even have to go through a brain numbing course like you do to have to become a realtor, it takes some of the shine off it for me.
Yeah.
The only restriction is you have to have like a very serious felony conviction. Like, listen, I'm all for the realtors, but also there are a lot of really bad ones out there. Like, the only thing that stops you from becoming a licensed realtor is you have to have a really bad conviction.
Dude, my realtor course, I was constantly getting threatened to get kicked out of it. It was hell on earth. Like that mind-numbing time.
Jimmy, that might be more reflection upon you than it is about.
That was just social distancing. Did you?
I don't think being a wholesaler should have a background check. All right, I think that'd be pretty lame. I mean, let's face it, right? Like wholesalers, we're doing the work that nobody else wants to do. Like straight up. And we keep the economy moving when it comes to real estate. Yeah, I mean,
but the association is different than regulation, right? Like just because it's National Association of Realtors doesn't mean it's a regulated industry. Those are two different things.
Sure. But when I think of the National Association of Realtors, you know, like when I heard you talking just now, you know, like whose course would they take? Like, what are they going to take? RJ Bates's course, Eric Brewer's course, my course, your course. They're going to go to Jimmy's when his house is in St. Louis and take a course with him. You know, how do you even figure out what the information is that somebody's got to take?
The law?
I don't think it's necessarily the course part, right? Because again, that's the regulatory part. It's just someone advocating on our behalfs on Capitol Hill.
Do you think this industry has that type of scratch? Like, no. I'm getting nervous just thinking about it. Where the National Association of Realtors, they have that type of scratch to lobby and, you know,
wholesalers do not have the sort of community approach with each other that like realtors have, for example. Like
that's kind of the idea, but like, right? Wouldn't that be a benefit?
It hasn't worked.
Berkshire Hathaway is a publicly traded company, and they have some cash to burn to lobby and do that type of thing.
Jerry was trying to do this years ago. What happened?
I think he's still trying.
Well, I mean, last time when I first heard about it, I think it was like 6 years ago.
RJ is the one that's interviewing him. RJ, why don't you get us up to speed?
As far as I know, I believe Jerry is still marching down the path to get this established. And
how much money has this panel? I've given zero towards it. So how much has this panel contributed towards the effort?
$0.
Well, if we value my influence, millions.
I think that's Jimmy and I's point, right? Like rounding up a whole bunch of wholesalers to try to accomplish this is going to take an insane amount of money to do. Jerry's got a lot of cheese. I don't think he's got that much cheese, right? Like that's going to take a monumental amount of money to be able to try to accomplish. I don't see it happening. I think it's a great hypothetical thought.
We would have a lot more fun than a realtor convention, but I don't think we'd get much more done.
before we run out of time for this round, I'm going to go with, and this is my favorite so far. RJ, pay close attention. Country music star Billy Ray Virus. Billy Ray Virus, y'all. Looking forward to the Christmas album, Billy, and can't wait. Love the holidays.
Eric, can you please post your doodles and tag me today?
You got it. Yeah, I'll tag
Thank you.
So in this round, it reminded me of something that we do here at our office. We have a quote board where we completely leave out the context. And the guy that showed up with a cold sore on his lip, he said, the thing I love about wholesaling, see, we would leave that part out and we would start the quote right here. It's anywhere, anytime, baby. That would be Jimmy's quote. We see that with your cold sore on your lip, Jimmy. We see that, buddy.
You can just hammer.
Yeah. Point goes to CJ. I thought his answer of Leon was solid, and then also the points he made following that. Eric, keep up the laughing. We'll take your point away. All right.
What's wrong with my answer?
Jimmy, he got credit, but no point. He led you right down a path there. Yeah, Jimmy, love it. Quoting, and Jimmy was all pumped up, and then he gave the point to CJ.
Jimmy's answer sucked. All right, question number 5.
My answer was great, RJ.
Awesome.
Hey, question number 5. Okay, CJ, you ready?
Yeah.
With the Arizona Diamondbacks and my Texas Rangers, that's right, baby, playing in the World Series.
You got to go to the games?
The 0 chance to win the World Series at the beginning of the season. How can entrepreneurs who come from a poor background change their generational future despite the odds being against them? CJ.
Yeah, I think the first things first is just recognizing that your financial situation, or quote unquote being poor, isn't a real limitation. The only limitation to me in doing what we've done is self. So, with a bit of determination, with a bit of real effort, with some patience, I think that regardless of your economic background, especially if you come from one of poverty, I think you actually have a leg up. I think you have less expectations than other people. I think you have less pressures than other people. You don't have as much, keeping up with the Joneses to do as so many people often do. So I don't see it as a bad thing. I don't see it as a hurdle really either. I see it as an opportunity and a big one if you could be intentional and be determined to put some effort forward.
Okay. Jimmy, on this one, what I want you to answer is how can they change their generational future despite the odds being against them, unlike whatever CJ just said?
I kind of like CJ's answer, but where you start doesn't matter. What's going through my mind when I saw that picture was my favorite Jocko video about good. Like, as long as you're still breathing, as long as you can still get up, you got to fight in the game. And so wherever you start, and like I just said on the last answer, the greatest thing about wholesaling is anybody, any place, anytime can get in this game and follow a few principles, be an honest person, a few business disciplines, and you can change generational wealth for you and your family. That's why wholesaling to me is so much fun.
Jimmy said, I'm doubling down on the anyone, anywhere, anytime. Love it. Eric, what about you?
Yeah, I think a couple things come to mind. Belief, right? I think our background or where we come from or where we grow up can have as much influence as we allow it to, both positive and negative. I think if you look at some of the people, a friend of mine is a huge Elon Musk fan, and he was talking about Elon Musk and how his father was just a bastard, like literally maybe one of the meanest humans ever alive. And it's created this just unrealistic work ethic that Elon Musk has. And the guy he sleeps on the factory floor. He works, he's never happy. And some of the most extraordinary accomplishments of humans in the United States and all over the world were born from horrible circumstances and backgrounds. And the real thing that those people had, and the same thing that these two teams had, was a belief that they weren't attached or handcuffed to that background, that they were destined for greatness and had it inside of them regardless of the circumstances. And then they took that belief and they carried it over to their daily actions. And it turns out that they were capable of everything they dreamed of.
Like that. Steve, what about you?
I think the answer is pretty simple, but really difficult to execute. And it's just changing what's between your ears, right? It's the mindset. It's a lot like what Eric said, the belief component, right? Because you have a lower set of expectations, so you think this is the way to go. But there's a lot of opportunity if you can change your mindset. Specifically, if you look at most people that have normal upbringings, they don't have terrible lives. And so they'll just follow the traditional path. They'll go to school, go to college, get a job, and work for a very, very long time. It's when life sucks that you want to do something about it. I want to change my family legacy, right? So I think first it's changing the mindset. It's that you have this adversity that causes you want to change what's going on, not just for you, but for everyone around you and people that come along after you. And this is a really simple answer. This part is just all the information and knowledge is already out there available, right? Between YouTube, podcasts, and this and that. Once they can get past that mindset, following what they see online, you can get really far with just free information. So I think those are the steps you got to take.
It's the greatest country in the world, RJ. It's the greatest industry in the world. You put your mind to it, you can do anything. It's glorious.
Anyone,
All right,
anytime, anywhere.
So a couple of things real quick, right? I think where you start does matter, right? Everybody's not starting at the same spot. But more importantly than anything, like you got to identify what Lego blocks you got, right? If you want to go build something, first and foremost, everybody isn't starting at the same spot. So take inventory of what Lego blocks do you got to build with right now, and which blocks are you missing to do what it is that you want to accomplish, right? Like if you want generational wealth and you want to own property and all these different things, well, it's going to take some money to do that, right? And so error that I see a lot of people make is they come into this business from a poor background and their intent is generational wealth. And so they go straight for trying to acquire property and hold it. They go straight for trying to do fix and flip because they think that's going to make them money. I think why Jimmy's probably so passionate about wholesaling is like I am, right? Is wholesaling creates cash for you fast. And if you want to build a portfolio, right, it takes a lot of money to do so. Everybody's favorite number when you ask them how many units they want is 100 units. Newsflash, I don't know if anybody realizes this or not. 100 units isn't shit. Like it's not a lot of property, right? And if you got 100 doors, it's not going to be making you a ton of money either. Certainly not generational wealth, right? Unless you're buying in appreciating markets, like I mentioned earlier, right? That have density, right? And a couple of other things that I said. But ultimately, yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's kind of my perspective on that. But I think everybody has an opportunity, not at the same spot.
And then Jerry Norton and Jason Medley helped me out on this a lot. Like Jerry Norton, I asked him, like, who should be buying assets? And he's like, people who have a cash machine. And then I was like, who should be wholesaling? He's like, people who don't have a cash machine. And then, Medley calls it passive income comes after hyperactive, active income. But I do think there needs to be a separation. Like you start wholesaling to create your cash machine. Once your cash machine's built and running and secured, then you start acquiring assets to build the long-term wealth.
But you don't get rid of your cash machine and go start building long-term wealth. You keep
a cash machine's too fun. How could you ever get rid of that?
But that's what most people do, right, Jimmy, is they start out wholesaling. I made this mistake myself before, right?
Yeah.
They start out wholesaling, get a little bit of money, then they start trying to go do any and everything else. When you don't, you should never get off your cash machine. You should only add to that.
Yeah, especially, because in my world with the W-2 investor, they're like, oh my God, I want to get 10 rentals and quit my job. And I'm like, no way, bro. Not a chance. Like you have a W-2, you have a cash machine. You got to ride that thing for as long as it'll put out for you.
Pause.
Sorry. And that's kind of how I got this situation on my lip, though.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. I mean, there's no better way to end this question than another quote.
Famous last words.
Curveball for you, Eric. Hit it.
Famous last words from Eagles great Donovan McScab. There he is.
All right. Point for question number 5 is going to go for Jimmy. Jimmy came on strong there during the little debate. I really like that. And the Jason Medley quotes, those were really good. Love that. All right. Question number 6. With inventory still seeming low, one of CJ's favorite topics, would you recommend someone buy a new build with the risk of it being built in a rushed manner with defects to meet demand, or an older built home? With them, yeah, there you go. There's a question, Jimmy.
To live in or as an investment?
Yeah, to live in.
I don't like new houses. I don't like how they aesthetically appear. Like I live in a 100-year-old house. I like things were built solid back in the day. So I'll take a nice rehab any day. And then new houses. I don't like their aesthetic appeal. And then they're built so fast. I don't know if they're going to last the test of time.
All right. What about you, Eric?
A couple different things working here. What I don't love about new construction is generally the price is going to be on the higher end. You can go find an older home. Maybe it's renovated. Maybe it's in good shape, probably at or near the median price for your area. So I worry about new construction when it comes to budget value. That's probably the first place where you're going to see dips. If you buy a $600,000 new construction in an area that has a median price of 400, you're generally going to see that top end dip before the middle is. So I think there's a lot more risk with new construction in regards to the price that you pay and possible value if and when the market slows back or pulls back a little bit. My vote would be for the older home.
Love it. Steve, this is your opportunity. I think in all of the times I've ever hosted, you've never gotten a point. So let's really buckle down and focus here, okay?
Okay, good. Well, I'm not going to get a point on this one for sure. So I would say it's the wrong question that's being asked, right? And I think that's the problem. It's, should I buy this or that? Really, it's what can you afford? How long you plan on staying there, right? I think how far are you willing to drive? There are so many factors that go into buying a home. It's not just do I want a newer home or an older home. It comes down to affordability. It comes down to how soon you want to buy again, how soon you plan to buy and sell. There's so many factors here. I don't think you can just say, it can just boil down to one or the other. But right now, I guess if there's in a vacuum, it's just one of those two, I'll go with a new build because they can buy down your rate. But I think this is just an oversimplification. If you're looking to buy a house, there's way too many considerations besides new build or an older home.
Agreed. What about you, CJ?
Yeah, I think Steve's right that there's a lot of variables at play. But like if we just remove some of those for a second, you buy new, and there's a reason that new still continues to thrive generally in certain markets, especially like what we're experiencing right now. They've got buyer incentives that most home flippers can't match because they're building on production. More importantly, when you buy new, you're escaping a lot of deferred maintenance. Sometimes I think people mistake older renovations for being new homes. They're not new homes. They're older properties that have been renovated, right? So there's a lot of deferred maintenance that still takes place on an older home. Most people that are buying properties financially are not in a position to be able to absorb maintenance over the years on a lot of these properties, which is why they start to run into disrepair. We've all bought properties where they were renovated 5, 6, 7 years ago, and now it's beat the hell up again because the person couldn't afford to keep up the deferred maintenance on the property. So I think the best bet for sure, especially in our current market, is to buy new. And I'm saying that as somebody who renovates houses, right? But I definitely think that makes more sense.
I think the right answer is whatever RJ says.
Hey, listen, honestly, on this, I think it's important for us to understand with the inventory being low, the importance of the new construction that is needed, but doing it the right way. And this is a pretty hot topic on this show about the inventory levels. I mean, I guess since we kind of all agree, open up the conversation a little bit about the importance of investors doing these new constructions the right way. Is there something that could be done to kind of eliminate this even being a question where we're saying, hey, these new builds are not built to the same standards as houses built in the 60s, 70s, 80s? Why is this even a conversation?
I mean, it comes down to, I think we are, for better or for worse, we're a capitalistic society, right? Like a builder is building a house for maximum profit. They're not building this for long-term durability. They're not building this property so that, that you can live in this house for the next 30 years. They're looking at what is a house that I can build for the lowest cost that someone's willing to pay the most amount for. So,
Right,
I mean,
Steve, I'm a builder, right? I've built a lot of houses over the last few years. Look, builders are playing the same game that we're playing as renovators. Mm-hmm. Let's not act like people aren't renovating houses and trying to source and find the most inexpensive materials as possible
But that
at
goes back
least
to the profit.
say it again.
But that goes back to what I'm saying. Like they're trying to build it for the lowest cost so they can get the
Yeah,
maximum profit.
but that's builders and people who renovate properties. Everybody does that.
I
right?
agree.
Like
Sure.
that's the process. So it's not like if you buy an older renovated home, like somehow you're going to have better quality materials. There's going to be instances where that's true. Just like there's going to be instances where you buy from a builder who cares more about the quality, the durability, the type of products that they're putting in the property. You just got to do your research on who you're buying from, whether it's a fix and flipper or whether it's
I know, but the question was, why is this happening?
Well, I think I'm with CJ a little bit. I think we also have old salty bastard bias where we're like, back in my day, we did everything properly. And all these new sons of bitches, like they don't do anything right. So to say all new construction probably isn't done as well, I think that's a bold statement.
I don't think that's what he said. What he said was anybody that's building homes is doing it for profit. And anytime you're doing it for profit, there's a balance of quality and margin. They're not just saying I'm going to build the best house regardless of price.
But like the dude in the 60s buying houses, he was working on for a profit too.
Yeah, right, but they didn't have the same access to cheap materials. They had mortar and brick and stone. Like
right.
in the
there's
20s,
a reason why
they couldn't. The building materials
there's a
have
reason
been
why
built.
if you can build. Have you really looked at a house where they say like, yeah, this was the build? Like you look at this whole subdivision, right? And then there's a one house that the developer built for him and his family. Like that's the house we all want because we know everything was measured twice, 3 times. You know the tile, you could just roll a marble down the whole house on that tile.
That's called a custom home.
A custom home built for him. It's not a custom home. It's a custom home built.
He owns the company, owns the dirt, right?
Right. Yeah.
I'm going to defend builders the way you guys defend realtors.
All right. On this one, I am gonna go with Steve. I thought Steve had a great answer. Yeah. Listen, I think
congratulations, Steve. Your first point ever.
There's too many variables to be able to say one way or another, and I think it opened up conversation and thought more about why this is even a conversation. Before we announce our winner and get out of here, I want to say shout out to you guys for watching. Our watch count almost stayed identical. That means you guys stayed on here for all 50 minutes that we've been live. We really appreciate that. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, okay, because we're trying to grow this Pardon the Disruption channel from scratch, and we need the support of you guys. If you could share this video out there to your following, it'd be very much appreciated. Today's winner somehow is Jimmy Vreeland. Cold sore and all. Jimmy, sign off. Tell the people what you think about today's episode.
Sometimes when you're down on the mat, you got a cold sore. You don't even know if you want to get up in the morning. You don't even know if you want to see anybody. You just want to lay in bed all day. Just remember, you got to dig deep. Other people have cold sores. They can't hide them all. There's medicine out there for that. So you get out there, you get your ass up, and you do what you got to do that day, cold sore or no.
Man, that is one hell of a victory speech right there. Eric, what about you, man? Say goodbye to the people.
Jimmy's a real cream player. I mean, a team player. Isn't he? But anyway, before I get to that last, because I want to make sure I get this in the spirit of Wu Trang, the Wu Trang clan, I want to do a little shout out to Infect the Deck for Jimmy's infection that he has on his lip, and Wu Tang. We're going to go infect the deck. Listen, today was like a calm, very minimal debate. Nobody really got too excited. Oddly enough, CJ got really defensive on the builder thing. Not sure where that came from, but he got really his back squared up. The hair stood up on the back of his neck. And he really got excited about the builder thing. So I'm going to dig into that and probably twist that a little bit more as the weeks go by. But I had fun today. RJ, I think you did a great job. I can't believe how you bite your tongue. He sits through all the answers, and he has this discipline of not cutting people off or speaking over people. And I notice how much more attention he pays than Potter, which I respect a lot. But I had fun. See you on next week.
Thank you, Eric. That was very kind. I think it's
You're welcome.
because last week during my birthday, you said if I could give RJ one thing, it would be patience. So thank you for giving me patience, Eric.
Steve, did you ever watch the McGolfin Group on Saturday Night Live when we were growing
The
up?
guy wins one show and now he just bulldogs everybody. And CJ,
What is happening right
But, like, have you guys ever watched that, like the McGolfin
Listen,
show? And he's like,
hey, stop being so lippy.
but he's like, no, wrong. Like, dude, you got to let me judge one show.
All
It'll
right.
be awesome.
All right.
The
That's
audience
great.
will love it.
Sounds like a C-SPAN.
Steve, can you say goodbye to the people?
So I want to apologize. Eric makes a great point here as well. RJ did demonstrate some strong emotional intelligence, so I apologize for that. We do help people close more sales, so go to closemoresales.com to figure out more about that. Last time Jimmy was here, we figured out what his hot button was, and it was anytime you compare him to our honorable Senator John Fetterman, right? So we figured that's his hot button, and now we know Chris's hot button is builders. I'm with Eric. We're gonna figure out what this is. But you know, he can come out here with the open houses and the Kroger trays. We're gonna figure out what's going on here with the builder situation.
That's the selfie he posted last week. It must have been with two guys that sit on the National Builders Association.
There it is. National
selfie
Association
in
of
the-
Home
in
Builders, NAHB.
in
That's
the
the one, right?
local-
Downtown
CJ?
Richmond.
They're on the local.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm supposed to spill this or not, but Eric, actually, I just got a text, and I'll let you ponder on this if you want to add anything to it before we sign off, because we're a little bit early, actually. Word on the streets is that Jimmy's cold sore actually came from his one night he spent with Nancy Pelosi. So you think about that. CJ, say goodbye to the people.
Yeah, I'm out. It's been real. Startflippingdeals.com. We got a class tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern. I'll see you there. It's good to see all you guys. Congrats, Jimmy, RJ. Fair job. I like the new poster in the back as well. You keep finding these little knickknacks to hang up. So good for you. Your background, the aesthetic in the background is really starting to come together. So congrats on that. It's good to see all of you. Much love. All
right. Eric, you want to add anything before we sign off, or are you good?
No, I've done. I was going to do Lip Van Winkle, but I feel like it's too softer. I'll save them. I think it's going to be around for next week, so we'll save it. I have a couple other ones, but yeah.
This is proof. Is this proof that Eric can multitask, or this is just the reason why he did so poorly? It's one of these two things.
There you go.
I had fun. That's all that matters.
There you go. Congrats, Lip Van Winkle, on your victory.
Appreciate it, fellas. Thank you.
Guys, we had fun. Tune in next week. We appreciate you.